Hey everybody, this is Harry here. Going to talk about our weekly chat. Um, and back in the cemetery again. Nice quiet place. Uh, nice chill out. Beautiful day here in Florida, northern Florida. Um, but anyways, our weekly chat. We're going to talk about what our favorite genre is, or what my favorite genre is, and why. And I guess mine is, it's kind of hard to pick because I like so many different ones, but my favorite would be gangster crime films, early gangster crime films. Have a passion for the gangster films from the 30s that I grew up on, actually, watching late night television and watching the Charlie Chans and the Sherlock Holmes. But a lot of that was also a lot of James Cagney and Edward G. Robinson films as well, and a lot of other ones that I used to watch on television. Even on Saturday afternoons or Sundays with my mother, I would watch these old black and white films, especially with James Cagney. She liked James Cagney a lot, so that's how those are the type of films that I attract to, are the gangster films, the early gangster films. And I still watch gangster films to this day. The modern day ones. I like British gangster films, like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and Rock and Roll, Layer Cake. Those films I like. The British gangsters, that they're always fun to watch. And I also Gangsterland. What's the one? Tom Hardy. Oh, goodness sakes, Law. So, anyways, where he's a moonshiner, and Shia LaBeouf's in it, but Tom Hardy's in it too. Anyways, it's sort of like a gangster film, moonshiner film, whatever. I like those type of films. Boardwalk Empire, the series that was on HBO. I love that series with Steve Buscemi. But the history of my growing up and watching films, I like, and it wasn't just gangster films, but that was what's prevalent. Those are the ones that I really enjoy. And some of them are what they're considered film noir now, like the Humphrey Bogart films, like the Maltese Falcon, and High Sierra. Those type of films. Those films are the ones I grew up on, so I really enjoyed. But I also like comedy films, early comedy films, like the Cary Grant films, the Jimmy Stewart films, the screwball comedies from the 30s, Spencer Tracy, Carole Lombard type films. I always enjoyed those type of films too growing up. Yeah. There used to be a fella down in South Florida. If you lived in the Miami, Fort Lauderdale area, I grew up in Fort Lauderdale most of my life. I'm from New York originally. In New York, I remember watching the $1 Million movie on Channel 9. I think it was Channel 9 or Channel 11 in New York with my mother, watching these old films like the gangster films and such. So that's where my love of that comes from. And then watching late night television, during the summer, I didn't have to be in school. We were out, and I would watch a guy named Big Wilson, who used to come on late, maybe 11:30 at night. He would play piano, had a big owl sitting on his piano. It was called Night Owl Theater, I believe it was called Night Owl Theater. And we were able to watch. He would play like the Charlie Chan films, the Sherlock Holmes films, a lot of the old James Cagney films like Public Enemy. Some of them, some bad films, films that were I guess considered B films. Not bad films, but just B films that you never hear, like DOA, Detour, such like that. And he would give you a little history of the movie, in between commercial breaks, and he played a piano, and and so that's where my love of classic films come from, the comedies and the gangster films, those type of genre films. And there's just something about them, because a lot of those movies from back then had the same familiar faces in them, the cast of characters. I've talked about this in the last video that I did, where you see your Edward Hortons and Ed Brophy's and Roscoe Carnes. There's a lot of those people that wind up being in these films that they're just character actors, but they because they're contracted to either MGM or Warner Brothers or whatever, that you would see them in a lot of the same films, or not the same films, but a lot of films in that time period. So yeah, that's where I get my love of those type of films. So that's pretty much all I have to say about that. But trying to think of anything else. I do like action films, like Gunga Din type stuff, Errol Flynn films, swashbuckler films. I like action films as well. So I do like a lot of different things, but I like them older. I do watch newer films. Don't think I don't watch newer films. I don't enjoy the newer films as I do the older films, because the older films have a charm to them that the newer films don't. Everything is so fake, with CGI. Even like I watched The Commuter the other day, and I know this has nothing to do with the genre thing, but I watched The Commuter the other day with Liam Neeson. I like his films, and the fight scene in it was so bad. Just the way they shot it, everything looked like computer generated. Like they just stuck his face onto a stuntman's face and body, and they were going at it, and the fighting was going quick. And I guess maybe that's just the way they shot it, but it looks so bad. But I don't know, something about the older films though, the charm of it, the fight scenes or shooting. You really never seen any blood in the older films, and then in the 70s it was always bright red, paint blood on them. But they all had a charm to them. You know what I'm saying? Nothing like now everything is so fake. Even driving in a car, and back then they were driving a car and there was a projection screen behind them, but it's all CGI, and I don't know. It's just, you can tell the difference, and there's just, I don't know. I just never. It's hard to enjoy movies nowadays that are CGI heavy, even just in regular films, where they can just hook a camera to a car and drive. They just have it in the studio and do it. But anyways, that's my ramble. As always, never cohesive. But thank you for letting me participate in these weekly chats, and I'll talk to you later.